to the wedding yesterday.
I did.
I love what you said about dress where you want to be.
That's when you need to start adjusting your diet. That's when you need to start adjusting your eating habits, your exercise.
You have to learn to have some type of balance in your life.
So as a leader, you got to learn how to do the things that are the hardest for you in front of others.
Yes. I love it.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Your Agent Ayanna, the podcast where we unpack everything from insurance essentials to the secrets of wellness, business insights, and the thrilling journey of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Ayanna, your friendly State Farm agent, and I'm here to guide you through the often mysterious but always fascinating realms of life, coverage, and success. So buckle up, subscribe, and get ready to dive into conversations that matter. This is where we talk about insurance, health, business, and everything in between. Without further ado, let's talk about it. Today we have a remarkable guest with us, someone who has navigated the financial world from the bustling trading floors of New York City to the charming landscapes of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm thrilled to introduce Moriah Stewart. Moriah is no stranger to the intricacies of finance, having graduated from Baruch College and built her skills on the trading floors of some of the world's largest financial powerhouses. However, what sets Moriah apart is not just her expertise in finance, but her passion for making a meaningful impact in people's lives. Her journey has led her to helping individuals achieve their dream of home ownership. Moriah is on a mission to educate and empower others about generational wealth, bringing the same intensity and efficiency that made her successful on the stock exchange to her clients and their buyers. Today, we're going to dive deep into primary home mortgage lending. Let's welcome Moriah Stewart to the show. Moriah, thank you so much for agreeing to be here today. Audience, I want to tell you that Moriah is freaking amazing. I met with her for lunch one day, and she basically changed the trajectory of my life. I was in the process of doing one thing. She said, wait, we were talking about life. We were just talking about life. And she was like, wait, why don't you do this? You know, and she talked to me about investment properties and everything. And she just, from that point on, I have been hooked to Moriah or connected to Moriah by the hip. So anywho, I just want to thank you again for coming on the Let's Talk About It with Ayanna show. And the first question that I have for you is regarding the home buying process.
Okay.
So this may be an odd question, and we'll talk about the important stuff in a moment, but can you tell me about the craziest customer experience that you've had?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure knowing you. It's a pleasure being around you and being in your sphere, seeing you and your business and, everything that you have going on in your drive.
Thank you.
Everybody can use inspiration, even if you think you're already, to certain levels. And so it's nice to be around women who also inspire.
Absolutely.
So
thank you.
So it was a pleasure when you gave me the call to come on here. And so I'm here now. Let's talk about it. So that is a good question. And I'm actually trying to narrow down the crazies in my head right now and give you the best one. But I guess one that would really be a good one to speak about. I had a gentleman that I pre-approved for a home purchase. Every step of the way, something crazy kept popping up. Mm-hmm. So first of all, people don't understand when you're pre-approved for a certain amount, this is your total amount, and this is based on what you can afford monthly in your monthly mortgage payment. So HOA matters. So if you're pre-approved for a $230,000 house or a $300,000 house, a $300,000 house looks differently in Alpharetta than it will in College Park, for instance. Mm-hmm. If you're in a subdivision that has a $500 a month HOA as opposed to a subdivision that has a $300 a year HOA.
Right.
So that made a big difference. And so first off, he goes and gets under contract for a townhome that was in his budget at the top of his budget, but it had a $300 a month HOA.
Wow.
So I had to refigure his numbers and things like that. Fine, we got over that hurdle. But what makes this client crazy is he was supposed to close at the latter part of the month. And so it was like the 23rd or the 26th or something like that. Something happened on the seller side, and he was actually going to close even later, like around the 3rd. He actually closed the 30th of the month. It was in October. Around the 27th of October, my underwriting, they called me, and it's a red flag, urgent, this file is now out of compliance. And he did not make his rent payment for October. And this happens a lot. People think they can skip out on the last payment of wherever they are.
Wow.
And if he closed on time, he might have been able to do that. But his apartment complex was really aggressive. They reported it to his credit report right away before he was actually 30 days late. Because that's the thing. If you're 30 days late, that's when it shows up on your credit report. It dinged his credit report. He no longer was able to close. I called him. I was like, are you crazy? I was like, what is going on? And of course he was like, oh, I was going to pay it.
Oh my goodness.
I told him, I was like, okay, you hang up with me. You go down there right now and pay your rent. Send me a receipt. Send me a letter, give me, proof that it's paid, apologize, ask them to bring it to, reverse it. And so he did go down there and pay it, and I was able to get it back on track, but
oh my gosh.
he almost took himself away from the house and then he would have messed up where he's living currently. So that's what happens to people. They mess up where they currently are, and then they mess up the house that they're gonna go into, so now they're stuck with no options, and it's just,
oh my goodness.
you really cut your nose off to spite your face.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
That hurt my heart there. Goodness. Why would he do that? But I mean, I guess I get it, but not really. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that information and that experience. So we're not calling customers crazy. However, we do have crazy experiences.
There we go.
So thank you so much for sharing. So would you walk the audience through the home buying process and give them some insights on what to do and what not to do?
So the main thing is that everything that's brand new, it always feels like scary or it's a big mountain, and it's just not. When you find your trusted advisors, the same way you find a trusted insurance agent that's going to help you stay covered and take away all your risk in the different parts of your life, you find a trusted financial professional who you can tell your goal to. You tell them what your 5-year plan is, your 10-year plan, and then I can help you figure out how to get there. And so it's not the same straight line for every person, because everything depends on your credit report and your background and what's actually in that credit worthiness file. It's never the same exact game plan. However, there are the staples that you got to look for. You make sure that your credit is at least, an acceptable range. Everybody thinks you have to have an 800 score or a 700 score. But if you've got a 600 score, there's no reason to throw away rent, money and rent payments. Go ahead and purchase that house and work your way up to those other credit scores. But the process is always going to be, you want to get pre-approved, and you want to be pre-approved by an actual lender. A lot of people, they go online to those online calculators, and those are good, those are nice. However, unless someone looks at your credit and says, okay, this is your debt, this is your monthly payment here, this is a no-no, fix this, or this is great, keep doing this. Unless someone looks at your credit and you can figure out your actual debt, you can't figure out your complete budget, because everything is your debt to income ratio.
Right.
So with those online calculators, people usually know their income, so they put that in, they put how much of a house they want to buy, and then they start with the Zillow search and all of these different searches, and they're looking at $500,000 houses, and then they come to me, and I unfortunately have to bust their bubble because their budget is really $300,000 or things like that. But that's because you want to do those things first. And a lot of times, the sentence I hear the most from people is, I'm not ready yet. I want to buy, I'm not ready yet. I got to get some things straight, and I'll buy. I'll call you when I'm ready to buy. But that's too late. You want me to take a look. If your plan is 4 to 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, you want, your financial professional, you would want your lender to take a look at your credit ahead of time, because some things take months to fix. It could be a tax issue, it could be a child support issue. There are so many different things. I had a customer who just had a name issue. The government messed up his name on his passport and his driver's license.
Goodness.
It took months. So if you look to purchase, if you try to get ready to purchase your house when your lease is up in a month or things like that, you're too late. So the main thing is, taking a look, go get pre-approved first, and that's gonna, involve you having your driver's license. It has to be valid. It can't be close to your expiration. I have a lot of people with expired driver's licenses. You can't purchase a home in the U.S. with an expired driver's license or with any expired documents. So you're gonna have your driver's license, your W-2s, or if you're a small business owner, your taxes for the last 2 years,
Right.
your pay stubs for the last month, and then you're gonna have your bank statements for the last 2 months. Once you have those things, you can get a clear picture, at least of where you're starting. So it's not so much of a huge, hard jump for people.
Yeah.
It's easy to get started, and just because you're pre-approved doesn't mean you have to buy a house tomorrow. So you can look and see where you are, and then take your time figuring out your area.
So one thing that you said was, or one thing that you talked about was debt to income ratio. Can you expound on what that means?
Definitely. So as a mortgage lender, I'm looking at your debt to income ratio, but it's not your overall debt. And that's what people really need to understand, because if it was your overall debt, no one would be able to buy a house. Doctors wouldn't buy houses, lawyers wouldn't buy, especially anyone in a professional field, they would never buy a house because usually their student loans are so huge.
Right.
So it's really your monthly debt to income ratio. So I'm gonna look at, what do your monthly bills look like? If you have a $10,000 American Express card or Capital One card or whichever credit card, I'm not looking at the $10,000. Your monthly payment, which is reported on your credit report, what does that say? That's $250. Okay, that amount. Plus your monthly, if you have a car payment or whatever other credit cards or a personal loan or investments, the monthly amount that you pay and how much you make monthly as well. That would be your monthly debt to your monthly income. And what is the ratio? And usually the average is about 50%, meaning the government no longer allows you to be house poor. And that's what happened years ago when so many people lost their homes.
Yeah.
And that's something that people can feel a little easier about, because I know a lot of people are still afraid. They don't want to go into that foreclosure or that,
Right.
or especially if they have a family member or a friend who lost their home during that time period. It was crazy. A lot of people were losing their homes, but there's so many laws and regulations put into place now that it prevents us from even being able to give you a loan if it's more than 50% of your income. In the past, people were bringing a paycheck saying, I make $5,000 a month. I want a house that has a $5,000 a month mortgage payment. And as long as you were able to show that you make $5,000, that lender would give you a mortgage for that amount.
Gotcha.
But it didn't account for life.
Right.
So that's why it's about a 50% ratio that you have to stay in with your debt to income, because we have to leave room for groceries and gas and utilities and just life in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I remember watching one of the videos on your Instagram page, and it talked about how someone was in the process of purchasing a new home, and they decided that they wanted a new car as well. So can you talk a little bit about what not to do when you are in the process of purchasing a new home?
Definitely. That's a really good question. Think of it as playing a game of freeze tag. You're it. You have to stay frozen. Someone's tagged you. When I pre-approve you, when you're pre-approved by a bank, a credit union, a lender, it doesn't matter who, you're frozen. Do not do anything. Don't give your social security number out to anyone. I had a person who was very savvy in the investment market, and this wasn't even her first investment home that she purchased. But she got swindled by one of those hard money lenders who told her he was helping her purchase a house in her business name. Yes, it was in her business's name. The mortgage payment, when it came to the house, it did say her business's name. But I asked her, I said, did you write down your social security number? Or did you write down the EIN number? She said, I wrote down my social, but it's under my business. If it's under your social, it's on your credit. So whatever it is, don't pull your credit. Even when you go, the biggest thing that trips people up is rooms to go, actually. Rooms to go, actually, I don't know if I can say the actual company name. So the biggest thing that trips people up, let me do that again. The biggest thing that trips people up is when they purchase, mainly from these huge furniture stores, furniture on credit, or those you see those advertisements all the time. It's a really big one. They always talk about no payments for 5 years, or no payments for 2 years.
Okay.
That gets so many clients.
Because they're wanting to furnish their new home.
They're excited. Their closing is in a couple days.
Yeah.
They're thinking about, let me go put this, I don't have to make payments on it. We can at least go look at furniture. And they mess themselves up, because just because you're not making payments for 2 or 5 or 10 years, whatever the advertisement is, it goes on your credit report instantly. And that's what people don't understand.
Oh my goodness.
That has messed up so many people. And
Oh,
I'm
my
always like,
goodness.
no, take that furniture back. Like, beg them, take it back.
Okay, so audience, you should see the producer that's behind the cameras. Her face is like this. I mean, this is some really good information.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, the pitfalls, it's like navigating a landmine. And so a lot of the pitfalls are easy to you're like, okay, no, obviously I'm not going to go purchase this. Well, and that one customer you were saying, yes, they decided to purchase a car and life happens. That's
right.
the thing. Life doesn't stop because, you're in the process of buying a house. But what I tell all my clients, and this one obviously forgot to this portion, I always say, call me, please. If you have anything, quickly call, text, it doesn't matter. I'm always available. Let me know, okay, your car broke down, you need to, but if your closing is in a few weeks, I'm gonna need you to check out that MARTA.
Right.
We're gonna have to work out an Uber account or something, We can figure it out.
I mean, nothing's wrong with Marta. So,
nothing is wrong with Marta.
Nothing at all. But okay, that's some great information. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience? Any comments? Any inspiration? Anything that you would like to share with the audience?
I'd like to share that this is the best time to be a homeowner. This is the best time to, invest in yourself and in your family. Homeownership, it is a lot of people look at it like, oh, well, I don't want that headache, or if I'm renting, it's not my problem if something goes wrong. It's the landlord's problem. Someone else has to fix it. And that is true. You pay for that service with your rent. But being a homeowner, there's not any homeowner that's ever looked at their portfolio and they go, oh man, I wish I never would have invested in that house.
Yeah.
Is it a challenge? Yes. Is it a lot of documents? Is it a lot of, stress at times? Yes. But what great thing doesn't come with a little bit of uncomfortableness? Right. But look how much it can bring to you. People don't understand the benefits of homeownership and insuring that house and being able to take money out of that house with those policies and the different with refinancing and just having a stable foundation for your family to grow and come back to. Who doesn't have a family house that they can remember?
Exactly.
Nana's house
because
in the
we
country.
Sure have one in Memphis. We sure have one in Memphis.
Mine was in Virginia, in the sticks. But it really does give your family a stable point to start and then a good place to grow from.
Absolutely. Well, wonderfully said. I appreciate you. I thank you so much for sharing.
All
right. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Today we have an exceptional guest joining us on Let's Talk About It with Your Agent Ayanna, someone who's making waves in the dynamic world of real estate. Please welcome Teya Bauknight. Teya is not just a real estate professional. She's a passionate advocate for her clients, dedicated to making the buying or selling process as seamless as possible. Proudly associated with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties, and Alpharetta, and a member of the Northeast Atlanta Association of Realtors, Teya brings a wealth of knowledge, a commitment to excellence, and next-level negotiation skills to real estate transactions. What sets Teya apart is not just her expertise, but her unique understanding of family needs and relentless dedication to service. In the competitive realm of real estate, she stands out as a reliable guide, ensuring that whether you're a first-time buyer or an experienced investor, every step of your real estate journey is navigated with precision and care. Today, we will discuss essential questions to discuss with a buyer's agent. Teya, thank you so much for joining the Let's Talk About It with Your Agent Ayanna podcast. I really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me, and congratulations on the launch of this.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So, audience, you may not know, I met Teya about maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Teya had a virtual real estate seminar, and she asked me to be a part of it, and ever since then we have been connected in some type of way. So I wanted to ensure that I had her on the podcast just to share her insights on the home buying process and give you guys the information that you need in order to be successful. So without further ado,
Yeah.
my first question to you, Teya, is what are some of the questions that future home buyers should ask their agents to ensure that they are as knowledgeable as they need to be about the process, the home buying process?
So some questions that I think that should be asked when getting an agent is, how are you going to assist me in this home buying process? It's very fruitful to have that person that you're going to be relatable to. Personally, I've had those instances where it wasn't a match, and it's okay to state that and let that person go. So I think that's very important. Do you have a preferred lender that you're working with? And I like to give them the top 3 that I work with, so they can pick their own lender. So those are 2 very important questions that I think should be asked.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And so you talked about how there might not be synergy between
Yes.
the client as well as the real estate agent. What type of synergy needs to be there? What characteristics or what behaviors do you think help someone really connect with their realtor?
Relatability. Relatability is very important. Knowing the person, their background, what exactly it is that they're looking for. Are you able to handle what they're looking for? A lot of times, you know, you can or you can't. And is your availability the same as their availability? You know, so a lot of different factors.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for sharing. So I always ask panelists when they come on the podcast, what is one of the craziest experiences that you've had as a real estate agent?
It actually was just recently. I had a double transaction, and it's a male. He's a male, and it was a mutual agreement to let each other go. I was unable to execute what he needed. He was unable to be the client that I needed. So it was a mutual agreement drawn up to fire each other pretty much.
Oh goodness. So when you say the client that you needed, what was the, I guess, the, not tension,
It
but
wasn't
what
tension,
yeah,
boundaries.
the barrier.
Yes, it was boundaries. Single man, you know, older, but you could tell that he was just like set in his ways as it came to, I don't know if it was women or what, but it just kind of came out how he was when it came to me. In the beginning, I told him I'm available anytime that you may need me, which was kind of something that I probably shouldn't have said, because it had him texting or calling late at night, 12, 1, 2 o'clock.
Oh my.
You know, so it was just boundaries, honestly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And from then on, each transaction, I've definitely put that in place. Now, it goes to another one of your questions, with the way you want to be contacted. I have a rule set now, and everybody's different. Every agent is different. Mine is I'm available from 9 to 9 unless it's a 911. You know, to give me that time to cater to you during that time.
Yeah.
And whatever other business I have after the fact, I can cater to my family and all that stuff.
Right.
So definitely, it was a learning lesson.
Okay.
You know.
So 911 can be subjective because 911, I mean, some people might think,
Right.
you know, I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
I totally understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. So talk to me about, or please, you know, talk to the audience about the home buying market right now.
Okay.
And things that they can do to ensure that they are a prime candidate for, you know, purchasing a home, a new home.
Absolutely. So you definitely want to make sure you know what your credit score is looking like. You know, that's very, very important. You want to know what your home buying power is, what expenses are going to come into place with you purchasing a home, location, your budget, the space that you're looking for. All of that comes into place when purchasing a home, and a lot of clients don't know to ask those questions. But I like to provide a home buyer's guide, a packet, to let you know what you're getting when you get into this process from A to Z. But I'm there with you.
Right.
But I just want you to know what it's going to be like.
Can you talk a little bit about your challenges regarding becoming a real estate agent, and how you were able to overcome those challenges? I know a lot of people who are interested in becoming, real estate agents in Atlanta.
Yes.
So what were some of your challenges?
Completing school, honestly, is one of the biggest challenges. I believe that's probably the most difficult test to take. So I would say make sure your headspace, you're in a good space when you're getting into it, because it's a lot. It's a lot. Retain everything that you can from school. Just know what you learn in school is not really what you're going to apply. You're not going to apply everything out into the field. And you have to be a people's person. You're going to be with people all the time. I think that's very important, because some people like to say, well, I'm not a people's person, but I want to do real estate. You can't.
How?
You can't do that.
How, Sway?
You can't do that.
How?
But, so during the process, honestly, I was going through a divorce, a separation during trying to accomplish real estate school. So that's why I say it's important to make sure you're in a safe space during that time for your brain, your mindset.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome. So what would you like to share with the audience? Any inspiration, any recommendations, suggestions on entrepreneurship, anything about, just stepping out, outside of their comfort zone, anything that you'd like to share?
I would say do it. Just do it. Seriously, step out and do it. We have a lot of things taking place in life right now that will cause us not to want to step out and do stuff.
Right.
Get around the right people. Get around your top 5. Whatever your top 5 is doing, relate to them. I like to have my top 5, and we talk weekly, daily about stuff that we're doing, and it keeps us in the right track. On the right track.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
it.
All right. Well, thank you again so
Thank you,
much
Ayanna.
for coming to our podcast, for sharing
Yes.
your insights. I appreciate you so
You're
much, and I
welcome.
look forward to working with you in
Yes,
the
ma'am, you
future.
too.
Next month, actually.
Next month.
All right. You have a great one.
You too, Ayanna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are back with Dr. Eddie, and this segment of the Let's Talk About It with Your Agent Ayanna podcast is called Tips from Dr. Eddie. So without further ado, let's talk to Dr. Eddie. Thank you for coming in again, Dr. Eddie.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again, Ayanna. It's
Absolutely.
always good to represent and to have a conversation. So what do you think folk got on their mind today?
Today, I would like you to provide some insights about diabetes and how that affects the community and families, and just any insights that you have.
Absolutely. I would start by saying one of the reasons I'm a physician is because of diabetes. At the age of 5, my grandmother was a diabetic, a double amputee, and had renal failure. And she died prematurely at 67 years old. And I remember running around with my grandfather saying, what is going on with my grandma? What is going on? And nobody could tell me. And it was at 5 that I said, I want to be somebody to help people when they're in these situations.
Yeah.
And everybody asks me, why are you so happy? And I'm like, I'm living my childhood dream.
Yeah.
Who says at 5 years old they want to be a doctor and they get to really be a doctor?
Absolutely.
So I'm blessed and highly favored in that way. But diabetes is near and dear to my heart because it is such a devastating disease for a population and for people who have it. And we are now, unfortunately, in an epidemic of diabetes type 2 in particular because of our diet, because of lack of exercise, because of our food. So you see a lot of people that are now obese. Obesity is one of the main factors that lead to type 2 diabetes. When you become overweight. So I explain it to my patients so they can really kind of understand the pathophysiology or why it happens. So you think of what happens is we have blood sugar. We all have blood sugar in our bloodstream. We all have glucose in our bloodstream. Well, what happens is when you're lean and have less sugar in your bloodstream, your muscles reach out and grab the actual glucose out of the bloodstream, and that's part of our energy. Well, as people gain weight, what happens is fat starts to cover those cells.
Okay.
And so they're no longer available to reach out and grab the glucose that's in your bloodstream. Well, what's going to happen when you got more glucose in your bloodstream, your actual blood sugar is going to go up. And so that's why it's the epidemic of type 2 diabetes, because we're all gaining weight and we're all overeating and we all have too much sugar in our diet. So that's kind of the pathophysiology, and don't get me wrong, there's also the medical side of it, or the more cellular side of it, I should say, and that is that the pancreas, as we all age, has apoptosis, which is just a big word for saying your pancreatic cells, your beta cells, are dying over time. And so they're producing less insulin, and that's why we give people insulin, but we have a lot better medications on the market now. So your pancreas is aging and you're producing less of the insulin. That's going to also bring your blood sugar down. So it's a combination of being overweight, also having the cells not producing as much insulin as they're supposed to be. So your blood sugar's going up, okay? And so we're ending up with type 2 diabetes, okay? So what we need to know, again, we go back to our numbers from our previous session, know your numbers. So most of the time, there's the random blood sugars, okay? A random blood sugar, and your number is 126. If your blood sugar is over 126, random, that means you haven't eaten in more than 2 hours.
Okay.
Because when we eat, all of our blood sugars go up to a certain level. Okay. And so it goes up because you have a glucose load. If you're eating something, you're gonna have a glucose load, and it goes up, but our pancreas makes enough insulin that it brings it back down to where it's supposed to be, unlike people who have uncontrolled diabetes or type 1 diabetes. They don't have the insulin there. But if you do a random blood sugar, it's 126. Now, most of the time we diagnose it by hemoglobin A1C. Hemoglobin A1C, again, is a long-term marker for diabetes. And so we in the medical profession had to develop the hemoglobin A1C because people would snooker us, okay? So they would be eating whatever they wanted to until they're like, oh, I'm going to the doctor next week, let me start eating right. And so they would come in and their blood sugar would be good. And we wouldn't know. We'd be like, oh, okay, you're doing good. Well, what happened is the hemoglobin A1C is a 3-month marker of glucose that attaches to the red cells, and we can measure that. And so that gives us a number. And so now the number you should be is between 4.6 and 5.7. If you start to get over 5.7 to 6.4, you're pre-diabetic. That's when people talk about you got a little diabetes, or at least that's what they say, you got a little diabetes.
Yeah.
So, but what you really are is you're pre-diabetic. Again, just like we talked in high blood pressure, that's when you need to start adjusting your diet. That's when you need to start adjusting your eating habits, your exercise. That's the phase you get to make a difference, okay? Because you can start to change your diet, you can start to eat better, you can start to exercise, and then you can start to bring your blood sugar down. After you get over 6.4, 6.5 puts you into being full-blown diabetic. And then you need to be treated with medications. And we have great medications out there, but then you're actually into what we would call a diabetic type 2. Again, there's type 1 and there's type 2. Type 1 diabetics, they don't produce any insulin, okay? Usually it starts younger. It's usually in kids, young adults, usually in their 15, 18, 20-year-olds, okay? But what it says is their pancreas is burnt out, and so their beta cells are not working, so they can't make insulin at all. So that's a type 1. And unfortunately, there are some type 1s that live, long, prosperous life, but most of them have prematurely passed. And so because they just, their blood sugar is uncontrolled, they have so much end-stage damage. And then there's a type 2 diabetic, which usually starts in people when they're 40s, 50s, 60s on up, because that's the one I talked about where your fat cells start to cover the cell and you start to not be able to handle your glucose load. And then your blood sugar goes up, so then we start to have more elevated blood sugars and more diabetes. So, and the reason why all that's important is because I tell patients about diabetes, anything you have, diabetes makes 10 times worse. Okay? If you got high blood pressure, it's going to make it worse. If you got high cholesterol, it's going to make it worse. So, because it's a microvascular disease, okay? So there's micro and there's macular. There's MI and there's MA, vascular disease. Well, big vascular disease is your arteries, you're going down your aortic, and then macrovascular disease is out here in your fingers, in your toes. That's why people start to have, when they have diabetes, they have neuropathy, because your toe is such a small vessel that that's where the blood starts being blocked off. And what that is telling you is that the nerves are dying. And when the nerves are dying, that is when you start to have neuropathy, because that's the nerves that's trying to fire to tell you something is going on. Well, if you're not taking care of it, you know, then it's going to end up becoming numb. And that's why I tell diabetics, I say, rule 1 is you don't go barefooted. Rule 2 is you still don't go barefooted. Because, you know, first you start off with, you know, you might have a small sore and you don't even know it, because people don't even look at their feet or they can't feel it. And then eventually that turns into a big sore, and then eventually that turns into gangrene and different conditions, and so it starts to come up the leg. And so that's why you see folk with amputation. And so that's kind of how it starts. So you know your number, 126 is random, which we do, but we really rely on the hemoglobin A1C, which is really the long-term marker, which gives us the most information. So you need to keep that number down. And again, you can have ups and downs, but that's where the most reliability is going to be in the hemoglobin A1C. So then you start to talk about the diet. So that's kind of where diabetes sort of come from, and it's a macrovascular disease because it affects, it's premature, causes premature strokes. Okay. Again, you see a lot of men in particular who end up that have uncontrolled diabetes, and this is one of the ways I get them to take their medicine, is because it affects their nature. Because erectile dysfunction comes from uncontrolled diabetes. Same thing, it lowers women libido, and so uncontrolled, because it is a blood flow problem. It also ends up with premature blindness, because as we talked in our previous session about high blood pressure, there are microvascular vessels in our eyes that are affected by them being clotted off by the accumulation of the plaque in the eye. So it causes premature blinding as well. So those are some of the things. Premature kidney. Again, that's why we have so many dialysis centers, unfortunately, because you know people are having kidney disease, and they're getting kidney disease from a combination of uncontrolled high blood pressure and uncontrolled diabetes, and they end up, and unfortunately, it's in our population, which makes me real concerned about it, because we have bad health outcomes. And again, one of the things that just passed that really should alert us is, why was COVID so devastating in the African American population? I mean, it was almost a 4-to-1 death rate in COVID versus other populations. Why? Because it really showed our healthcare disparities in our health system. It showed who's getting the least amount of health care versus who's getting the best health care. And so when you start off healthier, you had less problems. And so we start off down here, and I say we start off down here with bad health anyway, with diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So COVID was able to affect us much more devastating than it was the Caucasian population or the non-African American population. So it was just, we in healthcare started to look at that, and we wondered why it was ravaging through the African American community, and we started to really see, if you ever had a snapshot of how bad our healthcare system is or how disparaging our healthcare system is, COVID was a great example that showed that to us.
Woo, that's a lot of information. That's a lot of great information. You have, every time you come, you provide us with multiple insights. So thank you again for sharing your time with us. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. It's always good. Stay healthy.
Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Let's Talk About It with Your Agent Ayanna. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today as much as I did. Remember, your feedback matters. So don't forget to like, share, and leave a review if you found value in today's episode. Stay connected with us on social media at Your Agent Ayanna for the behind-the-scenes content, updates on upcoming episodes, and a sneak peek into the life of a State Farm agent. navigating the worlds of insurance, health, business, and entrepreneurship. And as we wrap up today, always remember, your dreams are worth protecting, your well-being is non-negotiable, and your journey in business and life is uniquely yours to thrive in. Until next time, stay protected, stay inspired, and stay blessed.